Welcome to Finance Leaders Retirement Insights, the broadcast where we sit down with thought leaders in the world of finance who reveal their unexpected wisdom on the issues impacting retirement.
Welcome to the Finance Leaders Podcast, the show where we sit down with financial leaders, entrepreneurs, and industry innovators who are challenging conventional thinking and helping shape what comes next in wealth and finance advice. Today's episodes mark the beginning of a new chapter of the show. We are expanding the conversation and explore what financial professionals must become if they want to lead a deeper conversation and build business that gives them greater income, authority, freedom, and impact. And there is no better person to begin this chapter with than Jeff Thompson. Jeff is an author of an upcoming book, Selling Secrets of the World's Greatest Life Insurance Agent, 7 Principles, Tactics, and Strategies to Earn more in a Day than Most Agents Earn in a Year. The idea behind Jeff's books has been built, tested, and refined over more than several decades in the field. But this conversation is about much more than selling. Jeff's work has become the part of the foundation for what we now call the 100K day methodology and helps advisors recognize opportunities they may not see yet and navigate more meaningful conversations in order to create results that can fundamentally change the direction of their business. That work has led us towards something much deeper and larger, really a movement designed to help advisors and their clients keep what is theirs and break free from the systems, assumptions, and business models that no longer serves them. Jeff, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Daniel. Good to be here.
Jeff, it's great to have you on here now. Before we talk about what we are building today and together, let's go back to a bit to the beginning. How did your personal experience really lead you to the methodology and all of the work that you're doing right now and that's going to be included in the book?
Well, that's a great question. So I guess this probably starts as far back as maybe somewhere around the late 80s, probably somewhere in that range when I first learned about guys like Jay Abraham and Dan Kennedy and started to study some of what they were doing. Had already been a student of selling. And those ideas had been swirling around in my mind. Some of them I had used to build different other businesses, unrelated businesses. I had a photography business that actually I built through almost entirely through joint venture marketing. So, and I hadn't known anybody else in that business that had really done it that way. That was my first kind of test that, hey, center of influence or joint venture or partnering was really an effective way to scale quickly if you do it right with the right partners. I would say that was that was a foundational test. And when I got into the financial services industry, because I had been a photographer and had a photography business, I later used some of these ideas and learned more about direct response marketing when I had a self-defense training business where I trained employees of corporations in a intensive full contact self-defense program for men and for women. And that also was marketed through centers of influence and joint ventures and strategic partners coupled with direct response marketing. So I learned the power of how to build a business and scale it quickly through a couple of those concepts. Those became an integral part of the 100K Target Life Day approach. They were beta tested going back about 15 years with an advisor that I met who was at the time a final expense producer and a guy that was selling term insurance through online leads, I believe even through a multi-level marketing company. So he had a long ways to go to get to the top of the industry. But over the years in working with him and applying these strategies and some additional ones, we were able to help build him into one of the top producers in the entire life insurance business. And have since now replicated that with other agents as well.
No, it's good. Now, in your book, you carry a fairly bold promise, 7 principles and tactics and strategies to earn more in a day than many agents earn in a year. What is the deeper idea behind that promise?
Well, I mean, the deeper idea is that if you're not already doing that, that there's something misaligned. So the promise is that it's possible and that there's something that you're doing and maybe several things that you're doing or not doing that are out of alignment with making that happen. So right now, there's probably something that you're doing that's preventing that from happening. There's either something you're doing, like I said, or not doing that's in your way, that's an obstacle to that result. And you may or may not know what that is because you have to kind of apply all of these things in the right order and in synergy in order to get that kind of a result. So hopefully it really kind of piques your attention and gets you to think, well, is that even true? Is that possible to do that? Yes, absolutely. It's possible. I assure you, we've done it dozens and dozens of times with folks. And that becomes a foundation for a 7-figure breakthrough. That's how we can help them build a lifestyle practice once they kind of master that 7 principles of that 100K target life day.
Yeah. Now, one of the central ideas when we work with advisors is this, that we both believe that the advisors already probably have the assets. They have the relationships inside of them. They don't have to go, build their database and make it larger to really start to reap the benefits of what we're talking about. I mean, we also talk about the acres of diamonds, right? That's kind of the idea. So how would you can you expand on that a little bit more?
Yeah. So this is actually kind of a foundational teaching that I, again, learned from a mentor, Jay Abraham, that most businesses have unutilized, under-optimized, unrealized, or unrecognized assets in their business that can be used to massively and quickly grow exponentially. And so what we're doing is helping people find what those are within their existing network. Most of the time, they have a network that has all the right types of people. Sometimes they're existing clients, but they didn't necessarily have the right strategy that was appropriate for that person or that irresistible offer for that person. So the acres of diamonds is definitely, part of our secret sauce, helping you to see the unseen opportunities and help the advisors we work with to monetize those in ways that maybe they hadn't previously realized they could do.
So, when we work with advisors, I think the hardest thing for them is, and I think it's a challenge within the industry, kind of have to go out there, you got to hustle, you got to go and talk to people all the time. And as you mentioned, they kind of overlook the whole idea that they do have these acres of diamonds. When we work with advisors, what do you see? At what point do you see that advisors start to realize that they do have these acres of diamonds? Because often they don't see it. They kind of feel like, well, they're just connections or my network that I have. I already talked to them about everything, and I don't really feel like there is anything there. Is there something that maybe they're not seeing?
Well, some of it is potentially their strategies, advanced strategies that are just little known in the industry that just so happen to align with the biggest needs and problems that the affluent need solved. And so when you have a better offer, that helps actually open doors to a whole new vein of business that maybe you previously didn't realize was sitting right in front of you. Thus, the acres of diamonds. We're finding that field of diamonds that are right in front of you. And once you have that lens of maybe the more unique approach to that market, solving a problem that they have, a big problem that they have that nobody's shown them this particular version of a strategy, all of a sudden it opens the doors because they're going to see it as an irresistible offer. They're also going to see you as offering something unique, something that's maybe more of a thought leadership in the industry because the vast majority of advisors aren't even familiar with these ideas. So that is part of it. I don't know. That's only a partial answer to the question, but some of it is helping them see through a different lens, right? So once they do, and they actually get that first case in to a discussion and into an application and ultimately paid and in their bank account, they're converts. They understand that what they can do now is they've got that 100K day foundation, and now they know, okay, now I just have to do this 10 or 12 or 15 times this year, and I've got a nice 7-figure income.
Yeah, I mean, often what we find when we start using, the 100K, target life day, when advisors hear this for the first time, they naturally just start focusing on the amount, right? But what does that 100K target life day actually represent?
Well, it is a lifestyle transformation. I mean, for me, it's really about helping the clients, serving the clients that they might have or prospects or the opportunities in their network at a higher level, and that affords you the opportunity to build a practice that suits your lifestyle. It creates a freedom to, as you've often talked about, which I wholeheartedly align with, which is, work with whom you want, where you want, when you want, and how you want from where you want. So it gives you a lot of flexibility to build a lifestyle practice, and that lifestyle can be one that you really love. You want to love your business, not be strapped to your business like a prisoner.
Yeah. I mean, you bring a great point. I think the biggest challenge that advisors have is that if they want to go and make that decision that they want to go and build a 7-figure practice, they need to realize that kind of what got you here is not going to get you there. And they need to restructure how their actually business is structured. And so often they're just so busy hustling and running around and kind of accepting everybody, where if you want to go and build that 7-figure practice, you actually have to make a conscious decision to actually sit down with the people that actually going to be those 7-figure opportunities, and that you're going to be able to go and have a different kind of conversation with them.
Yeah, a lot of times they're in the wrong market, but they have people in their network that are the right market. So they're maybe targeting some other line of business or some particular product that they like to sell, whether that's annuities or Medicare enrollment or final expense or whatever it might be. But they might have the right people in their network. They just are going after the wrong market and think that, they're trying to sell a thing to a particular market, and that doesn't appeal to the more affluent space. One of the things that really, I think, in order to do this, you have to kind of commit to solving bigger problems, and you have to solve them in a unique way. And if you don't solve bigger problems, you can't earn the kinds of commissions that are possible, to have that 100K target life opportunity. So it's a re-engineering of your thinking and your practice, but it starts with your thinking.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest thing for a lot of advisors to accept. Again, it's not what it's not what you don't know that hurts you. It's what you know that isn't so that hurts you even more. And I think that shift in thinking is the biggest thing, because so often when we meet advisors, they feel like, oh, there's nothing or no one in my market, right? I've already done everything. Where again, they're still looking at it from that lens that I think most advisors are. And again, it's the industry what has done with them. They're just looking at, how can I go and sell a product? How can I find somebody that's going to say yes to me to buy whatever I'm selling, instead of going more like, no, be more like a doctor, be more like a consultant. Like, you need to go do a diagnosis. You need to kind of build that trust and relationship by asking the right questions. Most advisors feel like they have to lead right away and start asking the questions. How much money do you have? Where do you have it? How do I get my hands on it? That's kind of what they've been trained in, that whole accumulation model, where we kind of want the advisors to step back a little bit. And those things are important in order to go and give them the recommendation, but that's not how you build a relationship, right? Like, asking somebody about their finances kind of right out of the get-go is not the best way to start a relationship with somebody.
Yeah, most people are going to be a little bit private about that and defensive about that. So we have better ways to approach folks. And again, that's part of actually what will be in my book. Where we're going to talk a little bit about the sales approach to the higher net worth markets and how that's different from what you do with, middle market or below. So if you come from this final expense world, what you do to sell a final expense product has no relation whatsoever to how you sell somebody that's high net worth. So you have to learn a new way of selling as well. You have to learn how to be the right person in that space. One thing that I've been coaching recently is, just something, again, I learned from one of my mentors, and that is it's more important to focus on who you are to your market than what you do for your market. So yes, we want to offer better solutions, but you don't have to be the one offering the more advanced, unique solution. You can do that through centers of influence and joint ventures and partnerships, where you can then just focus on being the right person to that market that they want to talk to. And the deliverables and the execution can actually be handled almost entirely by somebody else. You're just managing the relationship. So that's a very different way of thinking for a lot of advisors. They think they have to do everything. They have to know everything.
They feel like they have to be the expert, right? And like what you just mentioned, listen, I was there too. I thought that I had to know everything. That's why I got my CFP, and I call myself a recovering CFP now, because I thought I had to be the expert. What they don't realize, though, there is a lot of wealth. And again, one of the assets that I talk about is the access of your experience. That is actually the best way to build that trust and relationship with somebody, because all people want to know is that you're a human being. They're not looking for you to know everything, right? And to be able to do everything for them. They just want to make sure that you can actually help them, and how you're helping them is not as important for them to know that you actually can help them, or that you have partners, and that you're not doing everything on your own.
Yeah, well, this is a little bit about old school selling, right? That most people don't really care how much you know until they know how much you care. So that's a truism that came out of old school sales training, and it's still true today. It's probably been validated with a lot of persuasion and influence science that's come out of cognitive behavioral research and neuroscience in recent years. But there's also stuff in sales training that you've probably learned that is complete nonsense. And so some of it is validated, some of it is not. So what we're really doing is a science-based sales process, that uses the latest in cognitive behavioral psychology, neuroscience, behavioral economics, all kind of rolled into sales psychology and framework for communicating with the high net worth prospect. That it's effective and also aligns with the way they make decisions.
Yeah. And I think one of the biggest thing is, again, as we're learning from Dan Kennedy and some of the, mentors and experts, is that, wealthy people buy in a way they like to be sold, or they buy from people that they trust. They buy from people that are in their network, right? There has to be some type of a relationship. And again, those relationships can be built fairly fast if you know and you set up your process in a way, and and you're basically kind of speaking their language in a way that starts to build on that trust, right? And I think this is something that most advisors are not even aware of.
Well, yeah, this is actually a recent lesson. There's, really a hierarchy of income and power in the business, and most advisors and agents start in the business at the bottom of that pyramid, and they never figure out how to get to the top of it. In fact, they probably don't even know what the top of it is, in which case it's very difficult to get that very easy, kind of almost effortless sales process where prospects come to you. They want to do business with you because they see you as the only answer. And they're highly deferential, typically, to your advice. They'll take your recommendation, and they're not going to go shop around, because why would I shop elsewhere if you're the only one? So that's the model, and that does take a little bit of time to develop. It doesn't happen overnight, but it does build equity as you add the pieces over time. And you'll start to see things get easier and easier, not only in the sales process, but in the marketing side too. So both things kind of improve at the same time. Even though it feels more like marketing, it affects your sales process. And so I think this is also one of the areas where folks don't realize just having a high level of selling skills is certainly very useful. It's one of the best ways to get ahead and be successful in our business. but you have to combine it with this hierarchy of power and income in order to reach the top tier, or you just won't be able to get there. You just can't do it with sales skill alone.
And you're talking about something like, put it that way, a lot of the authority is partly manufactured. I mean, we're not talking about just going out there and making stuff up and being lying and not saying something that's true, but it's being manufactured. One of the things you recommended the book, The Hidden Yes, and I was reading through it, and it mentioned something there that often you can go and build that authority when you're in front of somebody just simply by having your own proprietary system and you're calling it something. That's how you become kind of that blue ocean where you're the only one that has that specific system and a process. You can't be compared to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And again, advisors don't understand that those are small. They're small little things. And I know one of your favorite saying is small hinges swings big doors. That's again, one small thing to go out there and do, have your own proprietary system and a process that again, puts you into that perceived authority in the eyes of the client.
Well, it helps to put you into a category of one. So like if you're trying to have a USP and be a unique business in a marketplace of a lot of similar businesses that have the same types of products and the same types of services, how do you stand out? And one of the ways to do that, of course, is to have a proprietary methodology. And we've been coaching that for some time. We actually prepared one that we could just let agents kind of plug and play and rebrand it for their own. But packaging has a lot to do with it too. You know, what do you do with it? I mean, it's okay to have a proprietary process, but you need to have a compelling package for it as well. And that it know how to position it correctly so that it is perceived as a high value differentiator that's unique to you and only you.
Yeah, I mean, listen, as we work with advisors more and more, we're realizing that it's not about the products, it's not about the production. And for us, that realization is part of the foundation for the movement that we have, keep what is yours. Now, when you hear those words, what does that mean to you, keep what is yours?
Boy, that opens up a big can of worms because there's a lot there. I mean, I think it obviously on the surface level, it's about the revenue that you earn in your business or the optimizing your taxes, that sort of thing. If it's for their clients, that can be part of the movement. But it's also about your time. I think more importantly is that keep what is yours, and that's your own time. Instead of having to be on somebody else's watch, you own your life again, and that gives you the freedom to build the lifestyle that you want. And so a lot of that time piece of it is, I think, the heart of the whole idea of keep what is yours, and that is the whole piece that allows you to break free.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. It's kind of, their income, their authority, their relationship, their time, their intellectual property. Like a lot of advisors don't realize over the years, they probably have already built systems and processes. They just maybe have not put a name to it. Right. And that can become their IP, and also the business equity. I mean, this is again, coming down to the, 4 assets, right? Like the way you structure your business, that can go and become an asset. I think the unfortunate thing is, and I've been there, we've all been there, that, at some point we feel like, oh, we're building a business, but then one day we kind of wake up and realize that really all we have is a job with an overhead, right? And I think that's where a lot of advisors are, because they have not actually intentionally, that they're helping their clients to kind of recognize around finances that, hey, you know what, you are the business. But so often I see advisors that are basically doing the same thing, where they're just so busy in their business, they're not really thinking about if they're actually running a business or not. And that actually brings us to the second part of the movement, which is break free, right? And what advisors need to do, they need to break free from sometimes the business or the structure of their business that they have built, and kind of build a business that they don't feel like they need to escape from.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this goes back again to kind of mindset and really changing your thinking. You need to break free from the thinking that got you here. Wherever you are, whatever success level that is. I work with a guy that for probably the last 6 years, without naming his name, was struggling a bit. His best year in the industry wasn't bad. He was doing all right. He'd made a couple $100,000 in his best year. And within a year or two of working with us and learning how to package things and position better and learn some of the right strategies that appeal to the higher net worth folks, he was able to crack into the 500% increase over that best year as kind of his new baseline, and he's growing from there. And for a lot of people, that's quite a transformation in a short period of time. 500% increase in your revenue over your best year ever, all from just some tweaks, right? Some little things, a new idea that gives a more valuable strategy, solves a bigger problem for the right market, packaging it correctly. All of those little things are levers. Those are the little hinges that swing the big doors and can take somebody from making $200,000 a year to over $1 million and climbing. So.
Yeah. So as we're talking about this, what changes when an advisor moves from that volume-driven practice, constantly chasing up to prospects and transactions, to more of a strategy-driven business built around deeper relationship and obviously more meaningful opportunities?
Well, there's so much that needs to change usually because you're going from a treadmill that's, it's basically market, close some business, repeat, right? And you're just on this treadmill that's very linear. In order to do something that allows you to create the kind of income that gets you to top of the table and sustains that, you have to have a shift in what you're building and what your activities are. And we call those the 7 pillars. But again, you'll probably learn a little bit about that when my book comes out. But I don't want to give all that away today. But the 7 pillars are an instrumental piece of that. So as you start to implement those, that leads you towards the transformation. I think I might have lost track of what the question was, but did that answer your question?
Well, we were just saying what really happens with an advisor when they kind of leave that whole volume, hustling, chasing, to now start being more intentional about what they're building.
Yeah, it's a very different deal. So these are not necessarily activities that seem like they're going to directly produce that next opportunity. They don't feel like it's an investment in time and energy that's actually going to result in that next commission. And so that's a big difference. That's a very different mindset to be able to shift from, chasing the next sale to building equity and assets for your business that attract those folks to you instead.
Now, as we're developing the 100K day target life methodology, we are continuously realizing that it's not enough just to teach advisors a few concepts and then kind of send them out there. And, they're going to go out there and do the business. But why is the methodology by itself not enough?
Well, again, this all starts with mindset. So I think, there are a lot of folks that are capable of a lot more than they're currently demonstrating. I think a lot of times it's because they have kind of entrenched beliefs about what's possible for them. Even the whole idea of the 100K target life day seems incredible. Some others might say, well, I think that's possible. I just haven't done it yet. But others might look at that and immediately reject it because they think there's no way that's possible. When we can demonstrate there's people that are even doing better than that. We've had folks that are doing a 7-figure day, not a 6-figure day. So, or multiple 6-figure days. So 100K is kind of a low, it's really kind of a low target, but even that for a lot of advisors, their thinking has limited them to thinking that that's not likely, that's not possible, that's too rare for me to even bother trying to build a business around, when in fact, the opposite's true.
Yeah. So what support does an advisor really needs, between the idea of learning how to do these things and then successfully applying it, to a real client situation?
Well, it's really, it's a step-by-step process, right? It's sort of an ascension. You're not going to just jump right in and tomorrow you're going to have a 6-figure or 7-figure case. that can happen fairly quickly. We've had advisors that come in, and we were just kind of rushed to help them take advantage of the opportunity that was before them. That ended up turning out to be a 6 or 7 figure opportunity right out of the gate. I think we had an advisor recently that, within a few months, which had to get it through the sales process and underwriting, earned somewhere near $500,000 with just two cases. So, it's possible that it can go fairly quickly. Sometimes they just have the right acres of diamonds. And when we get into the right strategy and the right mindset, we can go right to accomplishing that. Others, it might take a little bit longer. I know we have other folks in our midst that, have struggled. They may still have those opportunities within their network, but haven't quite mastered the approach. How do I talk to those folks? And I've built, some AI technology that helps you get an opening conversation. So what do you do with that high net worth person that has a certain set of circumstances that's in your network, and you know them, they know you, but you're not comfortable opening the conversation with them? Well, how do we do that? Well, we can actually have our AI sales engine actually create those openers for you, and you can find a way to open that conversation that's pretty painless and effortless and effective, that works.
Yeah. I mean, all these things that we're building, right? We're building right now kind of an environment that really connects the strategy, the case design, helping advisors develop. And I think what you're mentioning, and throughout this conversation several times, it is about mindset. I know a lot of times advisors, they're thinking about, no, I don't need that. I got it all figured out. No, we all need more of that stuff. We're all missing something. There isn't kind of the next level, next shift. But as we're looking at all these things along with marketing and authority and technology and community, why do those pieces need to all kind of work together in unison?
Well, I would say this is one of the issues that a lot of advisors have had in the past, is that they kind of chase the next shiny object, is what we would call it. And that endless quest to go chase the shiny object is well intended, right? They're looking for ways to grow their business. They're trying to figure out the thing that works better than what they've been doing. What ends up happening, though, is kind of this mucked up kind of incongruent messaging and positioning to the market, so that you're ultimately ruled out by the very people that you're trying to attract. And so sometimes chasing the shiny object and not having an integrated, clear focus on who your ideal client is and how to best serve them sends you running in a wild goose chase that actually moves you down this ladder of that I call the ladder of wealth and power. So it drops you down a notch just by being, kind of buffet style marketing. You're trying a whole bunch of different things, oftentimes in different disparate markets, hoping that that's going to solve your problem. And more often than not, it causes confusion for those high net worth folks that you want to serve. So, our specialty is helping serve the high net worth market and helping agents learn how to work in that space. And it's a different market, and it's a different approach to that market. And if you show up the wrong way, one of my other mentors for many years, Brian Tracy, he likes to say everything counts. And it's either moving you towards your goal or away from it, or moving you towards the sale or away from it. And he's right. And so it's, what are those things that you're doing that are currently moving you away from it that you're not aware of? A lot of agents are doing things that are unintentionally moving them in the opposite direction. I know you had your own personal experience with that, starting out successfully in the industry and adding some additional capabilities and skills, but in essence, dropping you down that pyramid of wealth and income.
Well, not understanding the whole
power and
being
income.
specialized. Yeah, 100%, right? Being an expert in something, only providing one solution to a specific market and then opening that up and being able to do insurance investments and financial planning and all these other things, travel insurance at one point. But from that perspective, that's what the industry was saying. Build a fence around your clients, and the more things you offer, right? Well, there is some truth to that, but if you're the one doing all of those things, that's not the right way to do it. You can provide more solutions when you go and build partnerships, and then when you bring in experts in and you're managing the relationship. And I think that's really what we're helping advisors to really figure out, that they don't have to be the expert. They don't have to have all of the designations and kind of look like they have it all figured out. There is actually, I personally believe that the more you make yourself, and again, this might be a little bit counterintuitive, a generalist from the perspective of you have the experts around you, but you're not the expert. When you present that to a client, you will actually build the trust, because it would be kind of like a doctor that says, oh yeah, I can do a brain surgery, and then on the weekends I also do heart surgeries. It's like, well, that doesn't make sense. Like, I wouldn't go to that doctor. In that same way, this is what advisors need to understand, that you need to surround yourself with experts that can actually help you with specific strategies. You need to know of them and how they can apply to your clients, but you don't need necessarily to know how to be greatest at selling them, right? And explaining all of the details to it. Bring in the expert for that.
Well, it's exactly why the affluent ignore a lot of the advisors that might be trying to go after that market, is because they have determined that they need to be the expert in a bunch of different things, and they end up being the expert in nothing to that market. And so they get ignored in that space. So, yeah. And it's a difficult lesson to learn, because you put a lot of effort and time into building your expertise. And I'm not saying don't be an expert. It's okay to be an expert. It's okay to be really knowledgeable. You just have to use it in the right way. And I think a lot of folks are using it to do the thing. And that's, like we started this podcast off with, that's probably the most powerful paradigm shift in thinking that I think most people can have. And that, that affected my own thinking when I first learned it many years ago. It's more important, and we'll say it again, more important to focus on who you are to your market than what you do for your market. And part of that is, and the reason that even makes sense, is that we can bring in those third parties through centers of influence or joint ventures or strategic partnerships. We don't have to be the expert in all of the things that we might want to serve our clients with, but we have a resource that does it. And that also expands your capacity, by the way. You can do more as a solopreneur if you want, because you have all these other folks doing the actual implementation, and you're out there building and finding more new relationships that you can put into that machine. So it's just a different way of thinking. It's definitely not what most advisors think about how they should build their business in this industry. And it takes a little leap of faith to kind of let go of trying to be the buffet. And I know you've been down that path, but you actually went the opposite way. You started off successful
unknowingly,
because of, because of a niche strategy, and actually intentionally moved down that pyramid of power and income. So it's just where the goal is. Obviously, if you start at the bottom, which is where most people start, and then we work our way up. I think because most people aren't even aware of that pyramid structure being out there, that the clients are making decisions based on that pyramid unconsciously. They're not consciously aware that it exists, but they do make their decisions about it, about you and about your business, based on it, and on an unconscious level. And that's why you have to be very intentional about where you land on that pyramid. And not just randomly do stuff that, in your case, actually undermined where you were on that pyramid and went from a better spot down to a lower spot, and it made life harder, and you ultimately ended up making less money in the industry that after you had done all this work to literally put yourself down a notch.
Which is very counterintuitive, and you think it would be the other way around, right? Like, hey, you can provide more, but sometimes less is more, right? And I think
sometimes less is more. Yeah. Well, I'm a big fan of the 80-20 rule and the Richard Koch's concepts of it. Obviously, the 80-20 can be exponential in how it works. So there's the 80-20, so that top 20% produces 80% of the results. Well, then there's an 80-20 within that top 20%, which is the top 4% that can eliminate the other 96% in most cases, because that might be responsible for more than 51% of your overall results. And then even further, we can take that to the top 0.08 or round it up to 1%, or the one thing. That one thing is the ultimate form of leverage, because now we're basically 80-20ing to the third power. And that very narrow focus oftentimes gives us very disproportionate results. So it's an important concept that I think, people have heard of the Pareto principle and the 80-20 rule. I don't think a lot of them live it in their business because it takes work. You have to constantly figure out what not to do.
Well, I think
you have to be constantly thinking, what do I give up? What do I not do?
I think there was a conversation with, was it Steve Jobs or, yeah, I can't remember, but what basically they were saying that the level of success that I have is because of the things that I say no to. Not to all the things you say yes to, right? Like we should be Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett was talking to, I don't know if it was Steve Jobs or who it was talking to, but he says the level of success that I have is because I've learned to say like no to like 99% of the things that come across my desk on a daily basis, right? Because when you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And often we see this with advisors all the time. They're saying yes to so many things and they're literally saying no to making money, but they don't think about it that way, right?
Yep. By trying to do too many things, be the expert in too many things, trying to know everything, that kind of sandbags your business. It's just it's an anchor around your boat, right? You've locked yourself in place by trying to do everything and be everything. Oh. And so the Pareto principle, or the one thing, or the 80-20 rule, however you want to call it, and however you want to use it, it has the power to exponentially impact your results. And I've seen it over and over again with the agents that we start to teach this stuff to and apply it. And it seems vague, maybe it seems unclear as to what that is. This is where we have the specifics, the actionable things, like the 7 pillars. Once we give everyone the 7 pillars, or the 7 principles in the 100K target life day, program, you can know what to do and know where to focus. You don't have to do all these other things. You can narrow your focus considerably and start to deploy that leverage on a path that we've already worn. We already know the path. Yeah. We've already seen it. It's already been
proven, right? So
it's already been proven. Yeah. So we don't have to, you're not guessing. You can just join the path and work your way through it.
Yeah. No, exactly. Now, listen, the show is now called The Finance Leader's Strategic Wealth Insights. What does the Strategic Wealth Insights means to you, and how is it different from simply accumulating more assets? Because that's really what the financial industry is teaching out there, right?
Yeah, I would say, a lot of the industry is product focused, tends to maintain their own silos. So, if you're a wealth manager, you kind of tend to be in that space, and you're probably not doing much with fixed annuities, for example, or income planning. You're probably not doing life insurance. But if you're an annuity producer, you're probably not doing life insurance either. You're probably just selling mostly annuities and doing income planning based on that. So there's a lot. Whether you have multiple licenses or not, or can do all of the above, most people pick a silo. And so what I've found is, some of what we're doing is outside the various silos that people are used to. And so they're overlooking maybe the best possible way to optimize somebody's situation. So they may be acting in a fiduciary capacity, but they don't know what they don't know, in which case you can't deliver the best possible solution to the prospect that serves their needs the best. So strategic wealth is just kind of opening up your mind and getting out of your room with the blinders on, and exploring what else is possible and what else might serve your clients' needs in in a way that you hadn't realized you could before, and that maybe does it at a higher level.
No, 100%. Hey, Jeff, this has been another powerful and perspective-shifting conversation. Thank you for sharing your experience and the methodology and kind of your thinking behind what it is that we're doing. And again, thank you too for the leadership and your partnership as we continue to work together to really contribute and give back to the to this profession. And today's conversation again, I believe that makes it a bit clear as far as what the 100K day target life day. It's not simply about earning more money in a single day. It really represents what can happen when an advisor learns to see the opportunity differently, see the assets that they already have, and when they start asking better questions, really, right? And they develop the ability to solve really meaningful problems for the problems that most of the times the client doesn't even know that they have. And again, this is where the advisor needs to become kind of that. Uh, he's got to go dig deeper into it a little bit more and really explore, where that client is at and how, what the potential or the opportunities are to really solve those problems for them. Right.
Well, that does start with who do you want to be, and how do you want to, and who do you want to serve? Those are kind of the starting points. And maybe people got into the business without any clarity about that. They just got into the business so that they had a method to go, earn a commission and pay the bills. But if you've survived that and you've been around the business long enough you earned enough to stay in the business, at some point in your career, there should be a time where you're like, well, who do I really want to be and who do I really want to serve? And that's where we can help guide you up that pyramid to become one of the most successful producers in the industry.
Yeah, I think the goal really is not simply to help the advisor produce more, is really to help them to keep more of what they've already created, keep more of their income, their authority, relationship, their time, and their intellectual property, right? And helping them to see that they probably already have everything they need to create that lifestyle business, right? And that's really, the ultimate thing that they can go and create, a great legacy for themselves, their family, and help their clients to create legacy. And that's really what's behind the Keep What Is Yours movement that we're doing. And that's why we are helping advisors to really break free from the systems, assumptions, and business models that keep them trapped where they are at.
Yep, absolutely. Well, and it's a fun project. It's fun having the transformation, not only for the agents, but the clients that they're serving, helping those people that were not going to reach their goals, not having their needs addressed in the right way, and suddenly seeing that there is a path to having everything that they had hoped they could have as a client financially. Well, obviously that pays better than solving small problems, right? When you give your clients their dream life, because of your expertise or your systems or your alignment with partners that have the expertise, now that unlocks not only bigger case sizes, but the lifestyle that you want as well.
Oh, exactly. Well, and again, this is why we have kind of relaunched this show as Finance Leaders, Strategic Wealth Insights. In this episodes and in the episodes ahead, we will speak with advisors, strategists, entrepreneurs, and other financial leaders who are challenging the conventional thinking and really helping build what will come next. So thank you for joining us. Until next time, keep what is yours and break free and continue building a business, wealth, and life you do not need to escape from. We will see you next time on the Finance Leaders Podcast. Thanks again, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Finance Leaders Retirement Insights.